I'd like to call the regular Board of Education meeting in order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, will you do a roll call, please?
Ms. Flynn?
Delayed.
Ms. Hewer?
Here.
Patchen? Here. Mr. Rakowski?
Excused.
Mr. Singh?
Excused.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Zopp?
Here.
Mrs. Gadsden?
Delayed.
Mr. White?
Present. All right. Please review the fireworks, Dr. Landau.
Emergency exits are in the back of the LGI.
All right. We do have a correction to the motion for executive session. We were supposed to have our attorneys come to update us on and seek us some legal advice. However, they were unable to make it, so we are going to make a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of particular individuals and to get an update on CSEA negotiations. And the board is expected to return at 7:30.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll be back at 7:30 from executive session. For your patience. We do have a correction to the agenda. That is correction on the non-instructional personnel list. It's item C. It's the effective date. Instead of being 1/12/18, it would be 1/11/18, and that is noted in the printouts that are available here for the meeting. It's also on the board docs online as well. Besides that, we do not have any revisions to the agenda, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Landau.
Yes, we are welcome everyone to the meeting tonight. We are very excited to be starting our meeting tonight by introducing two student board members to the board. So we have sitting in the audience tonight, and when I say their names, game show style, they're going to walk up and have a seat right over there at their new seats. But the student board members that we'll be welcoming are Noah Corey and Eni Akunwumi. Thank you. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process. They both wrote essays about their interest in the board, and then they went through an interview process with Dr. Sieverding, the high school principal, and myself. And we originally were thinking we were going to have one student board member, but they both were so amazing that I came back to the board maybe a month or two ago, and I said, "Are you guys good with having two?" And they said yes. So I've mentioned this before. The district I was in before this, Ithaca, actually had 5 student board members. We had a really big long table, and it's a really great experience. So our student board members will be involved with the board in a few ways. One way is they'll be up whenever we're having a public meeting. They will have the ability to sit at the table with us. When the board does their updates, our student board members will be giving updates as well. Our board members give updates about community things they've been attending and also committee meetings. Our student board members will be talking about things happening in the district or the high school from the student perspective. When we have presentations, either budget presentations or staff presentations, the board can always ask questions and interact with people giving the presentations. Our student board members have the same right to do that. When I was in Ithaca, some of the best questions came from our student board members, and so I'm excited about having their perspective when we work through issues. Just to be clear, there's things that a board does that the student board members won't be involved in. When we go into executive session, our student board members won't be in those meetings. When we vote on things, the student board members won't be there as well. They're here almost kind of as in an advisory way, but to bring the student perspective to the board, which I think is very, very important. And so I'm really excited to have them, and they are just going to introduce themselves to the community for just briefly and kind of share with all of us why they were interested in doing this. So whichever one of you wants to start.
Hi everyone. I am Toluwala Eni Akunwumi, but you can call me Eni. It's a little lighter on the tongue. And I found out about this program. They just said it on guidance on like the announcements. So I immediately went down and got a sheet, and I read through the description, and I really loved the idea because I think it creates a comfortable environment for students to like voice their opinions and what they believe the school can do better. And I think it really takes a step towards breaking the barrier between the students and board members, because I noticed that a lot of students don't really know what's going on in here. So I think this is a great idea. Thank you for allowing me to come here.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Corey. Like Eddie said, I think this program is definitely going to be very beneficial to all of the students here in high school and the whole district. Like Eddie said, a lot of the students are not comfortable with speaking to adults or even our administrators in high school. So for them to be able to come to us with any problems, because they do voice a lot of problems in the school district, me and Eddie hear them a lot throughout the day. So it's going to be definitely interesting to hear what they have to tell us and what they want us to voice to the board, and being able to do this is definitely going to be a lot of fun, and we're definitely looking forward to it. So thank you.
So just to be clear, I made it clear to them, this was the same way we worked it in my previous district. They don't have to stay till the bitter end of a board meeting. They can, after they do their update or after a conversation, if we start going to the wee hours of the night, they have to get up really early to go to school the next day. And so they are allowed to get up and go home, and they should never feel guilty about that. So I just want to say that publicly. But we are very excited to have them on board, and I can't wait to start hearing your updates and your questions and all that too. So thank you both for being interested.
Thank you. This is something the board has been looking to do for quite some time. Since I've been on board, this is my fourth year, and we've talked about adding student board members for 4 years, and it's finally come to fruition. So that's great. You guys are setting the bar, so you don't have to live up to the bar, but you're setting the bar like the F-150 commercial. You're going to set the bar, and we hope that you set it high for future people that follow you. So welcome aboard, and thank you for participating. It's going to be really great to hear a student perspective. Don't hesitate to bring what you're hearing from the school to the board. That's the only way that we get informed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I would like to ask everybody to stand for a moment of silence for Jerry Anilak. Thank you. Just to talk a little bit about Mr. Anilak. Mr. Anilak was a stable member of the community. He graduated from Beacon High School. He was a three-sport student athlete. Played football, basketball, and baseball. He had 3 kids, 3 boys, Mary?
Yep, 3 boys.
3 boys come through the Beacon High School and Beacon City School District, and they were all athletes as well. He recently had a grandson that graduated from Beacon High School, and he has grandsons that attend now. And any granddaughters?
Not here.
Okay. And I'm asking Mary Ann, who's the daughter-in-law. So thank you, Mary, for attending. And Jerry's definitely going to be missed. He's a lifelong Beacon resident and contributed in many different ways. He was a fireman in the city of Beacon as well. And he also drove the buses for the Beacon City School District. So he'll definitely be missed. All right. We have a workshop tonight. Our workshop is going to be presented by Mrs. Dawn Condello, the Director of People Personnel.
Good evening. You guys hear me? Okay. Thank you for allowing us to come tonight to talk to you about a project that we've been working on. Last year when I took the position, I have a strong feeling and a strong conviction about students becoming more active, so I'm so glad you guys are starting tonight, because this follows through with a lot of my philosophy. As a building principal, really push more for student-led practices. So in this position, I was thinking about how do we allow our students who have individualized education plans to have more of a voice. So we know the high school students do participate in their annual review meetings, and I learned students in 7th and 8th grade. So last year we sent letters out, and we had students participate in 5th and 6th grade at their annual review meetings. Sargent School was the first school that had the 5th grade class, the cohort that did this. There was some hesitation on the teacher's part, but at the end I was starting to get emails and text messages saying it was really an eye-opening experience and that the students really participated and gave them some information that was going to be pivotal when they were developing their IEPs. So kudos to the teachers at Sargent who started this off. At the end of the year, we decided that we were going to also increase student participation, and K through 12, each student was going to write a goal, either towards their IEP or goals so that they could track it. At that time, then Duchess Bosse's was developing a program, and they were initiating districts to consider the student-directed IEP process. So when they came and spoke to me and talked about the components, it really spoke to the work that I really wanted to focus on. So then we talked about stakeholders and a cohort of groups, and I have some of the stakeholders tonight, and I'll have them introduce themselves. But in addition, I have Samuel Sims, who is the assistant principal here at the high school attending, Lori Edelman, who is the assistant principal at the middle school, Mark Yakavone, who is a special education teacher at the high school, Frank Hoy, I knew I was going to mess up his name, a general ed teacher at the high school. We have Dawn Asuma, who is our school psychologist at the middle school, Selena Rosario, who is our speech and language pathologist, Donna McGinley, our special education elementary teacher, Jackie Ziegelman, our general ed elementary teacher, and Laura Bryhoff, who is a general ed roundabout middle school teacher. So you could tell it's not just totally special ed, but we were incorporating special education and general education teachers. This is a year-long project, which we started in September and will be finishing in May. And so we've been using our time really working on the process. We presented to you a pamphlet that was presented to our ambassadors, which we'll talk to you about the selection of our student ambassadors who were high school students. And these pamphlets were presented to the parents of the ambassadors. Also in the workshop, each one of us received books about working with our students about getting the most out of their IEPs, as well as a binder and an action plan that we've all created. So,
Okay.
Go ahead. Got it.
Good evening, everyone. So the purpose of this project was to really get the students involved, to get the parents and students on the same page with the teachers, to help them to develop their IEPs so that they would function for them. The process that we're doing now, that we're using, is helping us to educate the students and the parents on what the special education process is here for, what exactly it is that we're here trying to do for them. It allows them to become their own advocate, to stand up for themselves, to say, okay, you know, this is working for me, this is not, I need help with this, maybe I need a different accommodation, or this one's not working, can we try something else? It gives them a chance to speak for themselves, to invest in themselves, to advocate for their own needs, and to further their education in a way that is beneficial not only to them, but to the staff and everyone who's working as a team to help them achieve their goals for both education and career following here. So we've come up with a cohort. We have what we call the student ambassadors, which are the seniors, and they're going to really lead this program right now. So what they're going to do is they're going to participate with one of us from the team and a special and a general ed teacher. We have a lesson plan in place for them. They're going to help develop at least one goal in their IEP, and the seniors will be running their meetings, soup to nuts. So from the invitation to speaking, to celebrating their accomplishments, and to discuss about where they still need help and what's helped them so far. So now that they're graduating, what's beneficial to the students that are coming behind them. So it's a really intricate process, and we're all really invested and excited to see students flourish under this new direction.
So New York State requires transition planning for students' IEPs, especially when the student turns 15. There's a state report and requirement, and we are actually having to be involved in Indicator 13, which we're going to be participating in a self-review at the end of this month to look at how are we incorporating student involvement in the IEP process. So I believe that we will be flying through Indicator 13 with no difficulties, especially through the process that we're doing for the cohort group.
And this poster that I can't let go of actually takes you through the whole process of the plan from start to finish. So the end here is where our ambassadors are. So that they'll be leading their conferences. So basically what that means is they make the decision of who it is they'd like to have at the meeting other than just their special ed teacher and their general ed teacher and the stakeholders that are normally at the meeting. They also get to decide, okay, you know what, I have a really good connection with this teacher and I'd like them to be at the meeting. There's someone in the community that I have a good connection with and I'd like them to be there as well. So it kind of helps them be able to say, this is what I want to do, this is for me, I'm going to stand up for myself and what I need for my education. And then going forward, deciding whether or not they're going to need certain goals when they go to college or if they're going out into the workforce. And it's going to help them get more involved and kind of be a cheerleader for themselves. And then this is just a real quick, this is what our timeline kind of looks like of the different steps in the process that we have planned out for each student, the ambassadors, and even the new students coming up through all of the grade levels. Hi, everybody.
So we mentioned briefly that last year, Sargent, we started with the 5th grade students joining for part of their annual review meeting, and then this year I'm in 4th grade, and we're going to have our students join into the meeting as well this year. And at first, yes, some of the teachers were a little hesitant, and I think sometimes parents as well, before you go over the information with them. And at report card conferences, we presented the letters that we had and talked to the parents, and they were just as happy as all of us for their students to be able to be involved and advocate for themselves.
And at Glenham this year, there's a big population of 5th graders, so we were able to launch this with the 5th grade students over at Glenham as well, where we sent letters home to parents and students, and they're really excited about moving forward with the IEP process. And K-5 students are going to be working on a goal this year that they want to move forward in their next year of school, whether it's something very small, whether it's a picture drawn, whether it's a more complex goal. Some 5th graders were speaking on something that they wanted to work on. They wanted to increase their words per minute for their fluency. So it's really getting kids to think about what they really need to help them along their career path and career goals to make them successful students. And then at the middle school level and the high school level, last year the 6th grade students, they participated in the annual reviews, and now we're continuing this with 6th grade through 8th grade. And they're also going to develop a goal on their IEP. So, you know, teachers love lesson plans, okay, and lesson planning. So, of course, we had to include a sample lesson plan in our PowerPoint, but the ambassadors are going to follow this lesson plan. It's about them, and it's about them carrying through the process of what goals they'd like to work on and how they're actually doing in school, and how are they ready to actually role play in the meetings. In the meeting during the IEP process. Next. Moving forward.
So this is a little bit of an excerpt of a letter that we wrote to the parents, but we indicated that whether your child enters high school in their freshman year or preparing for graduation, our goal is to help the students increase their independence and the transition to post-secondary opportunities. And an integral part of it is becoming educationally independent and understanding their own strengths and weaknesses related to their academic and behavioral needs. And as they become older, it's a good practice to have them review their individualized education plan so that they can prepare for these discussions. This will help them understand if they need directions repeated several times. If they are working, it's okay to say to your employer, can you repeat that? Or for me to be able to produce the work that you're asking me to do, sometimes I may need to ask you to have the directions repeated. It's having them have the tools to be able to go to their teacher or their professor in college and feel okay about asking about the grade that they received or whatever supports and accommodations they may need to have. So we're excited. The ambassadors, we're picking 2 students from each grade level, 9 through 12, so there will be 12 students that will have that lesson plan guide, and the 2 seniors will be the ones that will be running the whole entire meeting with their IEP holder who will be working with them. And the ultimate goal is then to have students at the high school level, once they're comfortable, being able to run the majority of their meetings in the next couple of years. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer any of your questions you may have.
Any questions? Bill?
Do you have any plan to do an assessment of the program at some point to see if it's meeting its goals and if it's, if there is a benefit to the students who have the IEPs?
Yeah, we have exit summaries. We want to meet with the group of students, the ambassadors, at the end to get their input and feedback to see how that's working for them. We want to develop a survey form for the parents who were involved in the process. And then at the 4th and 5th grade level, we'll probably do some self-reflection of the students to see how it's going. Knowing how the students responded last year at the 5th grade level was really another jumpstart of enthusiasm about it really worked for the students. So we're going to do a lot of follow-up with that.
Okay, thank you.
Do some examples of what the points of resistance were among teachers, like what were their concerns, and then what was the more anecdotal feedback that you got after the process occurred, how that's informing how you approach the other schools?
I think honestly some of it was just being something new. Like it was
Something
just to us
unknown.
that the unknown of, oh, we haven't done this before, but once we were there and once we saw the students and once we saw that the way that they could advocate for themselves, we're like, this is golden. Like, why didn't we do this before? Something like that. For me, that's what I think. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think it was just the unknown, like not knowing how is it going to go, and we've never done that before.
And once we were able to make those clear expectations known to everyone, then they were able to embrace it. It was just the fear of the unknown at first.
And the same thing for the students, just like I think with anything else we might ask them to do that's different. Once we got to sit down and talk to them about it, we're doing this together, first time, going through the process, and then they were comfortable, and then everything kind of fell into place from there.
Was there anything that the team learned about, the way the student's experience that was different than what the approach that was decided by adults? Like, how did the student information
Well, the kids
adjust?
just love, thinking about certain ways. Like some kids said they wanted to bring food to their meetings. And
Yeah.
They wanted to, decorate an invitation. They wanted to set up a certain ambiance within the meeting. Yeah. That was so exciting. So.
I think as far as like if you're asking like their accommodations and things might go, or like strategies that we might use, I think it's just different to hear it from them, and it's like, even though you might know or think what's good, being able to hear it from them and say like, oh, that really helped me a lot, it was just that extra.
Or I don't use this accommodation.
As often as I should, or
right.
that's on
And
there,
so
yeah.
Oftentimes,
We're doing that.
tracking exactly how students are accessing their accommodations, because at times when we're at the meeting, there's a lot of recommendations being made by parents and by staff. They need to have all these accommodations, and then students will be telling us, I don't really need to have all of those to be successful, but this would help me. So one of the things that we weren't really quite sure how it was going to work out, and again, I kudos to Sargent, they agreed and they discussed that the last 10 minutes of the meeting, they would invite the students to come in. So they're only there for a part of the meeting. And developmentally and maturationally, we increase the time as we progress, and it also depends on the student as well, too. And so it's student specific. But what it allows is that IEP now is in the hands of the students. They see it, they understand it, and they're walking through it. So they have more ownership about what's being offered to them.
They know their rights, so to speak.
Yeah.
How was it done before? I actually don't know. Like, was the parent the person that communicated the situation to them, and
If that was happening.
if that was available? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that, that I'm sort of at the beginning of this process for my child, and one thing that, we see all these support groups and stuff, and the thing that always comes up is, good luck getting a school to follow an IEP, or good luck doing that. But then I think that if it comes from the student, if we empower them to advocate for themselves, I think like what you were talking about about something not being used, when things start to fall off by the wayside, then it's hard to follow everything, because you don't know what's working, what's not, one thing that seems important and one thing that doesn't. But if they know what's working for them, that's really exciting.
This does give them the power to say, what, this accommodation doesn't work for me. Can we do this instead? Or this really was helpful. Or, I haven't used that in years. Let's take it off the IEP. So it gives them a little bit more control. They're investing in themselves. They're more investing in their education. And it gives them a sense of strength. Like, okay, I know that this team is here for me. So if I really do need something, now's my turn. Now's my time to say, this is what I need. I just think it's great.
We're excited about the 2 seniors. We're not quite sure. We'll see how it goes. But what we know and what I've learned over the years, our students just blow us away with what we think they can do and then what they actually produce. So it'll be very exciting to finish the year, to see what they're doing.
I just had a comment. I'm excited to see something like this come to the children who have IEPs. Working in the field with developmental adults with developmental disabilities, we have something called person-centered planning, and so pretty much the person is in control of their entire life, their meetings and how things go. And it's amazing to see people who have profound to severe mental retardation take control of a meeting and really articulate how they want their lives to go. And I think a lot of times as adults we see things one way, and then you get the person or the student's perspective, and it turns out to be something totally different than what we as adults thought it should be. So kudos to you guys for kind of carrying something like this over. This is exciting.
And we can come back at the end of the school year to let you know what the data, what we found. If you'd like us to come back, we could do that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out to tell us.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any student or school presentations? Do we have any parent groups? Seeing none, I'm going to open the floor to the public. I'm first going to have Ms. Gadsden read the policy for public comment.
The Board of Education has established a single period for public comment at board meetings, not to exceed 60 minutes. All speakers and meeting attendees are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, libellous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice, as well as disruptive conduct, including calling out, will not be tolerated. Speakers may generally comment on any matter relating to district business. The president and or the superintendent may respond to comments when all speakers have finished. There shall be no further public comment or dialogue regarding the responses provided by the president and or superintendent. The rules applicable to such public comment are set forth in Board Policy 1230, a copy of which is available in the sign-up book at the front of this room and on the district's website. Thank you.
All righty. The first public comment that we have is Rebecca.
I'm a local homeschooling parent, and my oldest kid is a graduate of Beacon High School. There are approximately 25 homeschoolers in the Beacon City School District, from what I can count. Our homeschool families have to follow New York State regulations. Our children are Beacon City School District students. We have regular contact with the district each school year, including a letter of intent to homeschool, an individualized home instruction plan that has to be approved, quarterly reports, end-of-year assessments, and standardized testing results that we have to submit. I recently created a petition, I emailed it to all of you for the board asking for a change to part of district policy number 1741. And we have about 150 signatures, and I have a printed copy here for you. In the spirit of community and inclusion, we just hope that you'll vote to open up equal access to extracurricular activities for homeschooled students.
All right, thank you.
Or should
You
I-
can hand it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Chris?
All right, if my son and daughter come up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. We prepared a little song for you now. Listening to your presentation, and now I feel we're less creative. My name's Chris Dennehy, and this is Sam Dennehy and Emma Dennehy. And so I'm a father in the community, and a husband and a professional. And they've grown up in Beacon, and we homeschool. We, my wife and I. So the same you heard from Rebecca. And I wanted to give a more personal spin because we follow the same guidelines and structure that are necessary if someone chooses the option to homeschool. So we have school-age children living in the district, and we had we meaning Dennehy folks here, that we had a particular experience where we had been watching, my wife was watching the board on the cable television and had seen where a vote was taken to allow homeschoolers onto athletic teams, which then consequently down the road we found out was more of a state issue that it couldn't be voted on. But before that, that we had seen that vote and got excited and contacted the school and spoke to the school nurse who had heard about it as well. And she walked us through the process to have Sammy, who's played soccer in Beacon before he could walk, really. So this was an opportunity to play with other children that he had grown up with who were in-school students. So he had gone through and tried out and was accepted onto the team. The team consisted of himself, other team players, but the JV team, so they had enough for a team, and they had various other athletes who were on the bench. But the coaches played everyone. They didn't have two full teams, so I know that I know one of Sam's friends who didn't make the team. The coach had told him why he didn't make the team was based off of his skill level. He wasn't ready for the team, whether Sam was there or not. So again, we felt we were following the rules. We had seen the vote. The coaches believed that was the way it was, and he was allowed on the team. And then halfway through the season, the athletic director, I believe, saw his name as a homeschooler and put him off the team immediately. That was a whole nother, the way it was handled, that's a whole nother piece. But so we were devastated. He was devastated. The coach, Coach Petro, he had actually called Sammy this year to find out if anything had changed so he could come back on the team. When we found out that he was off and it was actually that the boat had gone through and then I guess rescinded, I don't know what the
Chris, you
language.
have 20 seconds left.
Hold on, stop, really?
Just run it.
So, so he was off the team, and our experience has been so. Fast forward, my daughter, who was not looking for athletic team but extracurricular, the drama club, had joined the drama club because we heard we could do that. And then the same results were halfway through she was put out. We went through the paperwork. We're very upfront about homeschooling. So I guess my concern is that because we have students here, parents of the students, teachers, everybody, including the school board, had voted, erroneously, but had voted. So
wrap it up in 2 seconds.
2 seconds. Time me. That I'm not sure who it serves. That they benefited greatly from it. Nobody from all the people that other people, collateral people, have been involved, seemed like they supported it.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I
No,
got
I get it. Thank
Do you have anything that you want to submit in writing? Or?
Oh yes, but this has a long introduction. No, the students of the high school had gotten their own petition.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Joseph?
Good evening, members of the board, especially your news members. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Joseph Linksman. I'm a member of the community. I'm not a parent. I'm a homeschool teacher. I'm an attorney in the state of New York. I work across the river in Newburgh. I live in the city of Beacon. And some of my students are in this room. I've, for a full year, have been teaching a introduction to the law course, which I hope to one day be in front of you, talk about how to teach law in public schools. But I work with these kids regularly, and I've been teaching them for a full year now. Some of my students are in this room. Why I'm here? I'm here because this issue is it got a little emotional. I heard the news that my students were removed in a rather cold fashion from student activities which they've been participating in, and I felt the need to come up and speak about that and support their petition. I understand that this is just an introduction of the issue, and I thank you for hearing the comment, and I hope that you reconsider and look at the decision to allow homeschool students to participate in public activities, including extracurricular activities. My point here is that I see this as a fairness and equality issue. Again, having worked with these students, they're bright. They're smarter than I ever thought they'd be. I've upped my lesson plans to include more material. What I did is I took the first year of law school, made high school level courses out of it, and I had to add information into it because they were running laps around me. And to hear that because these students or their parents made the decision not to participate in one facet of the public experience. I'm a public school student. My favorite teachers are public school, and I go back and thank them to today for my success. But to hear that because they opted out of one component, they chose not to go to class with their students, that they can't represent their city in other ways, that I understand the sports issue is one that is on the state level, and I hope that you would support the effort to make a change there. But as far as extracurricular activities that are within your control, it seems to me unfair, and it's just unfair that by opting out of one set of services, it seemed to be a bar to all services, and to preclude members of our community, the youngest members of our community, from feeling included, from feeling like they can participate, and from really contributing, I don't think is the right position. So I want to come and speak my voice on that, be a part of this, be in support, and I'm available to speak to any of you if you have any questions as you, I hope, reconsider this issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I also volunteer on the board of the student governors. I'm on the international board that has some student board members. You guys are in for a really great experience, and please participate.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else that wishes to make public comment that has not signed up? Seeing none, just want to comment, we do have a policy committee, and the policy committee meets, are we meeting, we have policies already reviewed for this month, but when's the one in February? We have one January 16th, but when? 17th. But what we'll do is we'll look at the policy committee agenda and see when we could bring the policy 1741 to the policy committee for review from the policy committee, and then the committee would then bring updates as to what that committee thinks about the policy to the board. So when we have our next policy committee meeting, we'll see. I don't know if we'll get it on this policy committee meeting, just because we set that up far in advance and we're updating all of our policies, but we could add it to the one after that. Okay. All right. Superintendent report, Dr. Landau. All right.
All right, I'm doing my superintendent update just with a few slides tonight. We're going to talk about a new communication tool we'll be using in the district starting next week, and then we're going to talk about the budget process a little bit. So we've been doing lots of different things with communication this year, a lot more face-to-face communication with community forums, whether it was about the capital project or just when I started in the summer. We started the superintendent blog, or I started that now a couple of months ago. We made some minor changes to the website to try to make it just a little bit easier, waiting for the summer to make more major changes to the website to make it easier to use. But we have one piece that we're excited about, and this is the Beacon City School District app. So these are just some screenshots from the app. We will be unveiling the app Monday, a week from today. So we will put it. We'll put the directions on our website. We will put them on our messaging system that will go to all district folks. But I'm just going to briefly talk about the app. It's kind of self-explanatory. It's pretty simple to use. It's actually, it's on just a few select people's phones right now. I am one. But it takes a week to get to the App Store. Like Blackboard helps us get it on the App Store for Apple and Google. So anyway, it's going to go live a week from today. So that first picture on the left, that's if you hit the app, that's what you'll see. So if you hit Activity Stream, it'll just be basically everything that's coming out of the district, whether it's a calendar function or something that's on social media. And then it also will have a calendar tool, which is the third picture there, which we think will be pretty easy and nice to use. And you'll be able to customize that for the things that you want to see. More on the app, notifications. It'll have a notification system. You can see a lot of the notifications recently have been about the weather. Pretty exciting. So those notifications are up there. You can, although I tend to shut off all notifications on my phone because they drive me crazy, I will not do it for the Beacon app. I will be notified by Beacon whenever Beacon chooses to notify me. So you can get notifications through the app. This is the same system that we are using actually right now to notify you when we do have like a school closing. Blackboard, it's a really easy app, and so one of the things I'll touch on, phone message, text, email, Twitter, Facebook, and then hit the notification thing too. So that notification will go through. And then there'll be another part of the app. There'll be updates for me, superintendent updates. And then the last thing I have is just a direct link to our YouTube site. So if you are working out at the health club and on the treadmill and you want to listen or watch that Beacon School Board meeting in a much easier way, it's right there for you to look at. Some things that we're working on getting on our app that will not be there on Monday, but we hope to have in the future, is our menu for the cafeteria. We're working on an athletics part of the update right now. We're just going to have the Beacon Athletics Twitter feed that you can access from the app. Our athletic director, John Giametta, does a lot through Twitter, so we're just going to have that to be something that you can access through the app. And those are the main features of it. We're going to be looking to add things as we go, but we're really excited about it. It's just one other way that we will be working on communicating with the public. Personally, I think that calendar part is gonna be really nice. So we're excited. We will blast this out to everybody. I will spare a phone call. I will only do those usually when we're doing something about changing the school day because of weather. So we'll email this out to everybody. We'll put it on our website. I'll put it on the blog. We'll put it on social media. But we want to get the word out next Monday when this is ready to go, that we have our app. Since we don't have a board meeting before then, I wanted to talk about it tonight just a little bit. You can tell I'm really excited about the app. All right, next. Budget process. So I've been talking about board goals an awful lot this year, and there are 2 board goals that I feel really tie into the budget process that we have set up. One is the communication goal, to see involvement, collaboration, and participation of the entire community in the learning process in order to promote and support student success. The learning process and promoting and supporting student success is really the budget process as well. A superintendent who I worked with a few districts ago would always say the budget is the school district's statement about their values. It is the most important thing that we do. And so we want to, this year, see a lot more involvement and collaboration and participation in that budget process. Another board goal is the fiscal goal of the board, that the board will work collaboratively with me to advocate for the financial needs of the district and to secure public support for school budgets that improve academic offerings. So I think those 2 dovetail nicely. And so we tried to put together a budget process. It's not completely done, but we tried to put together a budget process that we feel is collaborative. And that is also strategic. And so just a brief overview. The community engagement part, we're going to channel through PTO meetings. We already had one last week at Roundabout, so that is our schedule. We'll be there. I put some of these on my blog a week ago, and we've had some updates since then, so I'll re-put this out. But we're going to PTO meetings. We're taking as much time as the PTO will give us. We're going over the board goals just briefly. We're going over some budget parameters. And then we're just basically asking the folks in the room what are short-term things you'd like to see in the budget and what are long-term things you'd like to see in the budget. Sometimes what someone thinks is a short-term thing might be more of a long-term thing, vice versa. But we're just there to listen and to hear what folks are interested in putting in the budget. So we not only have the 6 school PTOs, but we also have the Beacon Arts and Education Foundation and the Beacon Advocates for Music. They are having a joint meeting, and I'll be attending that to get that. And we'll also put a survey out, fully knowing that not everybody is able to attend a PTO meeting, and so we want to get those same questions answered through a survey. And so the survey will go out in a couple of weeks, but we feel we'll have a good sense, at least from the community side, of what people are looking for short-term and long-term with our budget. There's some other aspects of what we're doing with that. We're doing the same kind of meeting with faculty and staff. I say optional because I know folks are really busy in our district, but we're setting up these meetings. I don't have the calendar yet. We only have about half the dates and times set. I'm waiting to unveil that calendar when I get all the dates. But we're going to get in front of faculty and staff and ask the same thing. What do we want to see? What are things that people want to see in the budget, both sort of this upcoming year and over the next 5 years? It's funny, we talk about, it was an awesome presentation, by the way, about student involvement, and then we have student board members for the first time tonight. And so I will be honest, I put this presentation together just a few hours ago, and in putting it together, I left out a really key part to this. And so I think part of the value of having student board members is that we're always reminded of what's most important in our district. The thing I left off here is that I don't have meetings on here to seek input from students in our district. So Noah and Annie are going to help me set those up. We're going to start with the high school, and we'll get those done over the next few weeks too. We'll work with the high school administration. We don't want to leave them out of the whole process. But so we're going to do that with faculty, staff, and we're going to do it with students too. We're going to just be asking, like, what are things you want to see? And we're taking notes and compiling and just getting a sense. Obviously, I've been listening to people for the last 6 months. I have a fair sense, I think, of what people are thinking of, but I haven't gone out and explicitly asked. And so this is our opportunity to do that. Some other planning things that we're doing is we're having class size meetings with our administrative team, and we're having course offering meetings with our administrative team. And so the class size meetings, we just started that today. We met with our elementary administrators. We went over all the class sizes for every single class we have at our 4 elementary schools. And we started planning on what do we need next year to keep this momentum going. In regards to class size, we're meeting with secondary administrators over the next couple of weeks. And with secondary, we're also looking at course offerings. Actually, I should go back with elementary. We're looking at course offerings too. At the elementary level, we're looking at the way we do specials to see if we need to make adjustments to that to make sure we're meeting our students' needs. At the secondary level, same thing. Like, are there other courses we should be offering? Already, after one of our PTO meetings, we're hearing that a second world language would really be great to be offered in our district. And so I'm sure we'll hear that more. But that's the planning for that is going to be starting at that administrative level. We also have a curriculum committee that has administrators on it, has teachers on it. Meredith is the board rep, and we're talking about new courses at that meeting too. And then with all of that, with my team, everybody's sick this week except Eric Wright. Thank you. He's here. Cecilia and Anne Marie both got sent home by yours truly earlier today because that bug is going around pretty fierce right now. But we meet on a weekly basis where we really look through all of this, and we're trying to make plans for the budget as well. So we feel pretty good about this planning process. We can always do more, but the community engagement part is very important to us. And then last but not least is the budget, or the board side of the budget. So board, I'll send this calendar out to you tomorrow. So this is draft. You know, the board will certainly give the final say. But this is just what we plan on doing over the next several board meetings to get this done. And so January 22nd, at the next board meeting, we're going to give a presentation about budget parameters. We'll have more information over the next 2 weeks that will help inform that process. February 12th, we'll go over the technology budget and the athletics budget. February 26th, Anne Marie will have information about the tax cap that she'll share in a presentation. We'll do the transportation and the facilities budget. March 12th, we'll do the pupil personnel services budget. We'll also do class size recommendations for our 6 buildings, so hopefully all 6 principals can be here that night. March 19th, we're going to try to sort of put it all together and talk about new initiatives we want to support with this budget. April 9th is budget adoption. So board, just as kind of a placeholder, if we need to, we might need to schedule a meeting between March 19th and April 9th if you feel like, you know, an additional meeting needs to be held to feel good about finalizing the budget. I'm just putting that out there now. I'm also putting out there that Monday, April 2nd is the NCAA basketball championship night. I
already had that noted.
So we do have an additional board meeting between April 9th and May 7th, April 23rd. We didn't put that on there because the budget has already been adopted. And so that usually is a meeting that we go back to regular school district business. Not that we'll also be doing that in all these other meetings. May 7th, we have the public hearing on the budget. My hope and dream for this is yes, that a lot of people show up for that, but that a lot of people feel like their voice was heard in the budget process way earlier than May 7th. One part I neglected to say, if PTOs will have us back, we'd love to come back to see PTOs between April 9th and May 15th to do just a quick overview with all PTOs about what's in the budget, because that last date is very important. May 15th is our budget vote. And so I like to do a lot of public work with PTOs and other community groups about the budget, and that work will take place between April 9th and May 15th. And so we're excited about that part too. So try to go fast because I know we have a lot to talk about tonight. But this is just a draft, and so I'll send this out to the board. We may make some minor changes to this, but this is our upcoming meetings. Obviously, if the board wants to hear other aspects of the budget more in depth, we will provide all that for you. On one of these nights, I didn't put it in here, we will talk about our professional development budget too, because we will be excited about talking about that for next year. So just again, to go back to the board goals, we're really trying to use that community engagement goal as a launching pad for really engaging with the community about the board, community meeting, parents, community members, stakeholders within our district, teachers, staff members, and students. And so we're excited about that, and we're excited to work through this process. I'm excited to have my first budget go forward here in Beacon. It was fun to kind of start with a trial vote with the capital project vote, so at least I have one vote under my belt before this one. But that is my update tonight. Any questions from the board?
Any questions? We do have a streak going with our budget votes, over 80%, you know. No pressure.
Thanks, Mr. White.
All right, thank you. Committee reports, board comments. Meredith?
I attended the curriculum committee meeting right before Christmas, for the holiday break, and it was a great meeting. We were talking about similar things. We're talking about the board goals and how we apply them and how it would look for each part of what makes our district work, the students, staff, schools, and families. And it was a really exciting conversation. We've been kind of trying to keep the budget part out of it, even though it is driven by budget season, but just in the sort of spitballing phase. But it was a great meeting. I look forward to the next one, which is on January 17th at 2:30 p.m. The only other thing I wanted to say, I love the budget being a reflection of our values. I think that's a great way to approach it, and I think all of the different options and places for people to plug in and talk about what they're looking for is great. I was at the PTO meeting also last week, and it was a good beginning to those discussions. So thank you for that. The only other thing I wanted to say, I don't know when the next Chevron meeting is, though on the agenda tonight is a donation for $4,500 going toward the technology program at the middle school, so that's exciting. And there is an art exhibit of student work at the library. The opening is on the 13th, which I think is Sunday, from 2 to 4. And there looks like some really great work there, so everyone should try to stop by.
Great, thank you. Bill?
Yes, the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting was supposed to be on Thursday, but as we all know, due to the weather, that was canceled. So the subject, which is supposed to be the state of contract bargaining in school districts in Dutchess County, is going to be held at the next Dutchess County School Board Association meeting. That's February 1st, first Thursday of February. The presentation is being put on by Stuart Waxman, so it's our law firm. And we have this every year. It's a valuable thing to come to. You get to hear about how all of the different contracts that are being negotiated or have been negotiated in the school district in Dutchess County, what kind of features they have, what kind of approaches you can look at taking for your, what are the flexibilities that you have. It gives you a good idea of the state of how contract negotiations go in the county, and it always is handy for next time that we have to do negotiations to see what's typical, what's atypical within the county. So that's 7 o'clock on February 1st up at the Saltport Turnpike. And of course, I'll remind you all again when we get a little closer to that. Also a reminder, January 20th, the Dutchess County School Board Association is putting on a meeting with all of our state legislators, so all of the representatives for both the state Senate and the state Assembly for all of the school districts in Dutchess County. Either them themselves personally or their aides will be at this meeting. The format is that there will be a couple of presentations from various administrators at some of the different school districts on certain topics that are of concern, with backing up with facts and experiences. As the feeling is that it's good to just actually have the legislators hear how how the laws affect the districts on a real operational level. There also will be a question and answer period, so anybody who comes can fill out a little card ahead of time, and then we'll go through those and just filter out and make sure we don't ask the same question 20 times, and then there'll be a period for that as well. The formal part starts at 10 o'clock. 9:30 is sort of a little continental breakfast, coffee and Danish and stuff, where you can actually just sort of hobnob a little bit with the legislature as well, and introduce yourselves and be able to let them see a face behind this anonymous school board and that they always hear about. But then at 10 o'clock will be the actual formal process. It should be, we're ending it at 11:30. The legislators will probably run out by then anyway because they have to go on to the next meeting. The director of the Dutchess County School Board Associations, Kelly Lappin, did ask for everybody to email her, let her know if you can attend or not, because it only sits about 40 people in the room, and we don't want to, have too many people standing. It's nice to have a couple people standing. Just last thing we want to do is have an empty room with all the legislators there. This is the first time that this has been done in probably about 10 years. And in the past, it stopped being done as a more of a formal breakfast because none of the people would go. And so the legislators said, well, why should we come if there's not going to be enough interest on the part of the administrators or school board? So we are hoping to get the room as full as possible. But then again, we don't want to have 90 people there and panic that we can't fit everybody in. So I don't know if you've all seen the email from Kelly. I did promise her that she did ask me to take a poll tonight and see who is going to make it. Okay.
I emailed her today.
Oh, okay. So we got at least four. Four. You're going to go too? Okay, good. Dr. Lyon, doesn't know if anybody from administration is planning on going.
No, but I'll confirm tomorrow.
Okay, great. So I can tell at least we got four. Our two new student members, if you want to go too and hobnob with the, I'm sure our legislators would be thrilled to see some young blood there as well. They're always interested in the students of the district, and of course, really the whole point of education is to educate you guys and get you to become good citizens and productive members of society. And so, if you'd love to come, if you got things to do, we understand that too. But you're invited as well.
We can
want to come.
give you a ride
if mom says I don't want to go. So just the facts, since you haven't heard it, it's at the January 20th. Like I said, 9:30 is the informal continental breakfast. 10 o'clock is the formal. It's at the Marriott Courtyard in Poughkeepsie, which is right on Route 9, just a little bit south of Locust Grove. It's sort of like opposite the mall up there. Not the Poughkeepsie Galleria, but the other one, whatever it's called.
Are you both on track?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You gotta track me, and I'm on my district calendar.
And that does it for me.
Great, thank you, Bill. Georgia?
Just that the next policy committee meeting's on the 17th. I'm sorry. At 7. $8:15. I'm sorry. On the 17th at 8:15 at the district office, and the next one's on February 21st. February 21st at 8:15. So what I'll do is I'll solidify and see if there's room on the.
Yeah, the February 21st. That would be great. Thank you. Did you have anything else?
No.
All right. Kristen?
I do not have the date for the wellness committee meeting. I looked at my old notes and I was asking George to look on the calendar to see if something happened. So no, it's okay. I should have it. But I'll make sure that it gets shared. But right now we're mainly in the process of planning the family wellness day, which is on March 2nd. And we've had some really great discussions about overall movement, health, well-being, policies about getting outside that need to be sort of examined. Well, not policies, but process and practice. I I also want to say welcome to new school student board members. We're really excited that you're here, and I hope this makes it this news makes its way to former board member Christina Galvo, who consistently raised this issue at almost every meeting that I attended as a community member for I felt like a year and a half, and then it's taken a while to make it happen. But I know that was something that was really a big priority for her, and rightfully so. So I would like to say thanks to her for beginning this process. I know, Anthony, you were a big champion of it as well. The student IEP, student-led IEP initiative is really exciting, and I think could start to inform just how students engage with their education across the board. I think we think about kids with IEPs and kind of making sure they're in the least restrictive environment, but this could be something where what they're doing actually will have a positive impact across the broader student population, because everybody, learning their strengths and weaknesses, being able to advocate for themselves and think about how to achieve goals, is sort of a great skill to have, no matter what.
Great. Thank you. Craig?
Thank you. The Facilities and Operations Committee, Mike's not here tonight, Mr. Rakowski. So I'll just speak a little bit. We have met on a regular schedule, and we'll be doing so and ad infinitum, I would say, to keep an eye on the capital program, which is now approved by the voters, and we have our schedule before us, and we keep fine-tuning that every time we sit down to look at it. We had good discussion with our architect team at the last meeting about how we go on from here. And this will occupy a lot of administrative time, of course, between now and then and thereafter. Actually, I think we're still finishing up some pieces of our last capital program. So it's almost an ongoing process. Relative to lobbying, I regret that I won't be able to go to that meeting on the 20th. I have another commitment. I'm glad to see that several hands went up on that one, because this year is probably going to be a very difficult year. This is what I'm hearing from everybody who claims to be taking the pulse of Albany and Washington, which is coming down on us with a number of things that are going to make it a tough budget year for the state of New York. And I think when we talk about collaboration, we need to really work on engaging more of the community in the lobbying efforts that go on. And I would seriously hope that we can get either our student representatives or somebody to go up to that meeting on the 20th, because our legislators need to see faces of the people who are impacted by everything that we're doing or that we're not doing. And sometimes it's what we're not doing, which is not adequately funding public education. And speaking of public education, regarding that policy about the non-enrolled resident students and extracurricular, it's worth noting that the obligation of a public school district actually is to ensure the education of all the students who live in the district, whether they are enrolled in our classes or whether they are attending some other school. We need to be sure that they're going someplace or they're getting a proper homeschooling education. So with that in mind, it seems to me difficult to justify our current policy of exclusion. And I hope that the policy committee takes a good second look at this in the light of what has come down. And finally, apropos of Dr. Landau's comment that our student representatives have to get up early in the morning. I think you have to be in there around 7:30 or so. Right. Yeah. Well, every time the subject of the hours of high school comes up, and anytime an expert or survey comes up and says something, it appears to be the same answer, which is that most people start high school too early in the day for the teenage lifestyle or physiology. And I remember that was the case when I was that age. And I have a student in high school now, and I don't think any of us who do need any great research to validate that conclusion. So perhaps the time has come to begin talking about our scheduling and what we do with the schedules of our various levels of education here. That's my thoughts for the day.
Thank you. Kenya?
Just wanted to applaud the wrestling team, who I understand did a very good job recently over the weekend on a tournament that they participated in. Tarani Haynes, one of the athletes, is a member of the church that I attend, and parents were really, really excited about his successes, and I'm sure that there was a team effort and other students that did well as well that day, so I just want to applaud them. The Public Relations Committee met, and I'm really excited to see that the app is actually in action. Dr. Landau spoke of it at our meeting. There's also supposed to be a link to Power School eventually, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
With it, so I'm excited about that. I guess hopefully one day the kids will have their link to Power School to look at their grades and look at the portal. So I think all of these things are really coming through to fruition, and I'm really excited. The Public Relations Committee was started because there was a lot of communication that wasn't coming from the district, and pretty much I think the district has done an excellent job in stepping up to the plate this year. Currently, the Public Relations, if there's any board member that has time available to participate with the Public Relations Committee, we are now down one member, and we just wanted to know if you're interested, just let me know. Anthony said that it wasn't mandatory, but just to ask you guys, just in case someone had the time to attend and work with us, it would be greatly appreciated. The blog already started. We reviewed the survey results, and we're excited to find that in the survey results, the most common issue was really the concerns with the website. And so we pretty much knew that going in. I think a lot of the other issues we can actually rectify, have been rectified up until this point. And so I think moving forward, the way we're moving, I think that the website issue will eventually just resolve itself with all the new media and avenues that we're using to communicate from the school district out to the community members. We also discussed the new template that's going to happen spring, summer. So that's something that we need to look forward with. We're building up consistencies within all the school buildings to get information out more frequently. So that's another way that parents will now, be able to gain information on what's happening in the district all at once and use the district as its resources. We also discussed communication with the city, with Fishkill and Wappingers. So Dr. Landau did send an email out, the resolution out, I believe, to Fishkill, right? I'm not sure if it went to Wappingers, but it was Fishkill, right? I made that note. It was Fishkill. And so we came up with the idea to bring to all the board members here on whether or not you want to come up with questions that you guys may have that you want to actually go to the city, and then those questions would be presented through the PR committee or a board member that wants to be a part of the committee to actually present those questions. This is another way for us to build the communication between the city of Beacon, Fishkill, and Wappingers as it relates to all of the new construction. These are concerns that some of the board members have brought up, and then it's just a community-wide issue. We've attended the forum actually the city council meeting that they had in Beacon, and it was well attended by many community members. There were board members there as well, and the attorney definitely had to really stand to ground to present issues and concerns from our perspective, although she was met with a little bit of adversity. The Public Relations Committee is scheduled to meet on the 17th from 9:15 to 10 o'clock. Right, so we're doing 3 meetings that day. I don't know if they're gonna need bubblegum forever. And so, again, if a board member is available and has the time, I'm thinking that's a steady person, right? Well, we don't need
Is there anybody interested in joining the Public Relations Committee?
I have to check my schedule.
That's a no.
Yeah, and we know the schedules are
I'm
tight,
joking,
so
guys.
it's not a big deal.
All right, it's not. We could go with 3, so that's all right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
January 17th
No, do you have any comments? You're not required, you don't feel pressured or anything. I saw you taking notes, and I don't know if you want to give a little comment on your first board experience and any of the same thing. You don't have to comment. If you have any news that you want to share with us, you're more than welcome to. I didn't want to exclude you from that opportunity.
I was just thinking, hearing Dr. Lando talk about courses. I know a lot of students definitely want more courses, electives, foreign language, and AP credits. So I think that will be definitely something. And I was just noting, I don't know if it would be beneficial to send some type of Google form survey out to the students to see what kind of classes they would like to be added into the service.
Yeah,
great
idea.
Any?
The world language is a second world language. That's a good idea. I heard that. Yeah, I just thought that would be a good idea because it gives the students choice, so we're not forced to take a certain language, and I feel like that will improve their participation in the class because they actually chose to take it.
Great. Thank you guys. Did an awesome job tonight, by the way. It's hard. One thing you got to remember is, are there cameras? 1, 2, and 3. So even when you aren't doing anything, the camera may be on you. So just be cognizant of that at times. That's one of the hardest things I had to get used to. I'd be like, I'll scratch my head or something, and they're like, oh, what's Anthony doing over there? But just always know that a camera may be on you. We asked Mike to edit as much as he possibly could and not have the wide view if he sees something going on over there, but just be cognizant of that, all right?
Thank you.
Just to follow up on something that Kenya said for the PR committee, I know that Dr. Landau reached out to Anthony Ruggiero, the City of Beacon administrator, about us meeting with the City Council. So I'm going to just ask him to kind of fill us in where we're at with that.
Anthony emailed me back and proposed January 22nd, which is a board meeting night for us. So I was thinking that would be a no, but I didn't know if people wanted to try to meet with them before we meet as a board.
I think we should jump on any opportunity.
Yeah.
I know, Kenya, you have trouble making something like that.
I already know I'm going to be delayed
What would be the before?
That is, it would be, 5 or 6 or something. I mean, I'm just throwing it out. It's not like a definite thing yet.
I just said I already know I'm going to be delayed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to get there that early, like 5 o'clock or something.
What about 6? We could do 6, kind of do like an intro, get a little, their new council members.
What day are you talking about?
George is definitely a no.
George has a work obligation.
Do they not, they don't have a council meeting that night because there's 5 Mondays in January.
Right, I believe so.
I can do 6.
Craig?
Yeah.
Kristen?
Yeah.
I know George is no. Kenya?
It's going to be questionable.
Okay. Bill? 6 you could do? I could do 6. Okay, so I think that we should get back to him.
Okay.
Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 members that could
Somebody
make it.
putting together some sort of agenda as to talking points, or is it just intros? And
I said to them, board council relations and development.
Yeah.
I mean, he got back to me and said, could you be more specific about the agenda, so I'll do that. But that's what I was assuming based on everything that's been discussed.
Well, also, at her last board meeting, Councilwoman Ross made a sort of long statement related to education and support of education, and one of the things that she had advocated for and sort of suggested to the new council was developing a working group of council members with school board members. And so that might be something to put on the agenda.
Future collaboration.
Well, I
techniques.
mean, specifically,
Strategies.
instead of, I think that's very general, but I think that if we go for something more specific, like a mechanism for future
Yep.
collaboration that's more formalized would be.
Okay. So you get back to him?
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
I figured that. I saw you type it. All right.
And I think also opportunities for shared services.
Did you get the last one? Opportunity for shared services.
Okay.
As it ties into facilities.
I just want to say Happy New Year, everybody. Hope 2018 goes off with no hitch. The weather has not been cooperating. It's been cold 2018 already. but I think that it's going to bring better things in the near future. So I have no other comments. And welcome, student board members. I'm so excited to have you guys here, give your perspectives. Don't hesitate to speak up, okay?
I have, just really quickly, I forgot, poster of the board goals, look. So they just came in, and we're going to get around to the schools in the next day or two.
Awesome.
Put it right there.
So on the agenda, we had a discussion about board retreat. So I'd like to open up a discussion about setting up a Board of Education retreat. Meredith, you asked for it. You want to start the conversation?
Well, it's been a little while since we had a retreat. I think we're overdue. I did, when I first got on the board, I had done a little bit of research about retreats, more in the area of team building and working together than the nitty-gritty of the rules of being a board member, more about working together. At that time, I had asked a local pastor if he would be interested. We had run into each other, and he mentioned that he had experience with it. I've since checked back in with him, and he does not feel that he has the time to do it right now. So the only other person that I had suggested at the time is Chip Wood, who sort of his whole thing is about relational trust, how to build trust and work through issues so that you can work together well. I still liked what he had to say. I looked around for some other options. I didn't come up with anything.
Just to go off of that, I've been trying to collaborate with Matt as to getting a board retreat because we haven't had one since he started. And I have been reaching out to a person that he is familiar with, Sean Bradwell, who is experienced, and he's starting to facilitate retreats similar to dynamics of working together and so forth. So I did reach out to him. I asked him to get back to us after New Year because I knew that this was going to be on the agenda for a discussion as well. He's going to get back to me with some available dates and times as well, and times for that. And I think it would be nice to know what topics to tell him. So I heard a couple topics that you were saying for the board retreat as to team building, working together, some trusts, peace, any other topics that when I reach out, and do you want me to reach out to Chip as well to get some dates and prices and
that's
stuff?
up to everyone else. I mean, I feel like that's someone I know who has experience as well. He's worked in the district a little bit, but he isn't anymore. So I'm open to your suggestion. I more felt strongly that it should happen, but didn't necessarily know who the perfect person to do it.
So do you think it would be ideal to have a board retreat that's like 5 hours long, especially if we're pulling someone from far away, right? We're going to be spending for them to stay overnight probably and stuff. I'm just looking to be fiscally responsible if they're going to be coming from afar, to do something that's longer, 2 shorter ones.
I'm fine if it's like a whole day one, as long as we can get some dates out there sooner rather than later. One of the things though, I would be interested in some guidance as far as at the end of the retreat, how we're following through with anything that was discussed or anything that we need to work towards, because I think we fall flat on that. Because we've had, over the past couple of years, we've had board retreats and there's never been any follow-up or to take a pulse on how we were doing on anything that was discussed in those retreats.
And you'd be okay with a day like, would Saturday work for people, or is that like a Saturday, Sunday is absolute no?
Saturday would work for me.
You could make that work if that's an option. A Friday night if it had to be.
Yeah, if you get some dates out sooner rather than
I
later.
did ask him for dates, so we're gonna be somewhat constricted because I already asked for dates if he's available, and that's the way we want to go, to look and see, and I'll present all the dates that he presents. And I could also follow up with Chip to see if the dates as well. So
I mean, I think Chip Woods, he's the one that, I think I attended one of his sessions, it was over at the.
At Beacon Rep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it was the same person I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I would suggest maybe contacting a few people, explaining what we're looking for, and ask them to respond back as to what kind of program they would run, how long they think, they would suggest, because I hate to say we want 5 hours worth, they say, I've never done anything more than 2, it's like, what do we do, stretch it? So,
Yeah.
I'd like to see what they would, this is what we want, these are our goals, how do you, how can you accommodate us? How long do you think it'll take you to do that? What kind of, show us like your sort of your agenda, how you would lay out that kind of coursework, and I think we can take a look at that. Course prices and everything else we have to take those in consideration, and then see which one I think we'd look at which one we feel would best meet our needs.
Okay. Any other topics besides team building, working together, board relationships? I have that all under that piece. Having the tough conversation type of thing. And follow up, yep. Follow through.
Right.
All right, so I will pester Sean a little bit and email him back. He did email me on Wednesday. He emailed me back and said that he would send me some dates and stuff. So.
Do you want to email Chip just to have some?
Yeah, that would be great if you want to, after the
Yeah,
meeting, you
yeah.
can share the information with me, and I'll follow up with him as well. And there was also, he used to be the general manager for the Hudson Valley Renegades. I forget his name now, but I always get emails.
Wiseman?
Skip Wiseman. He does some topics. I'll see if that also, if he would be willing as well. So we have 3 people. And it's Chip Wood, you said?
Yeah, I just sent you his.
Okay. Skip Wiseman, Chip Wood, and Sean Bradwell. And if we wanted to, if they only have if it's only like a team building facilitation for like 3-4 hours, we could then do something public with board goals. I think it would be important. How long did it take us to come up with the board goals? It took us quite a while to come up with and finalize board goals last year. So it might be, now that we have a good base, we might want to look to see if we want to put anything in there that we can measure them, right? Or tweak them a little bit, just as Matt's getting comfortable with them.
They are a poster now.
If it's not etched in stone.
All right. Did anybody have anything else that they want to add to the discussion? No? All right. So we have the consent agenda. All right. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item would be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Is there anything that a board member would like to be pulled from the agenda? I have 13.09. I need a motion for the consent agenda minus 13.09.
13.10.
Oh, you're pulling that? Wait, you almost lost your term there.
13.14.
Now he's on a roll.
Now he's on a roll. I was like going, and I was like, next thing you know, you pulled it after I was going for a motion for the consent. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda minus 13.09, 13.10, and 13.14.
So moved.
I have Bill.
Second.
Meredith is a second. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 0. I need a motion for 13.09. Georgia, second.
Second.
Bill, I would just like to, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like to say with thanks, that is a pretty hefty donations that we're getting. The 4,500 from Chevron, I think that was combined with others, and we were able to purchase a middle school Lego. Was it Legos?
Lego robotics.
Lego robotics. So that's going to be awesome for the middle school kids to see. And there were some other good donations in there, so it's nice to see. 13.10. I need a motion for 13.10.
So moved.
Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Georgia, comments or questions? Go ahead. Craig?
Yeah, I thought this could use some updating in the language, given that we now have student representatives on the board. And when this was first drafted, we didn't have that. But if you look at the language there, it appears to me that when it comes to discussing the executive sessions, we need to reflect that the students are not legally permitted to be part of the executive sessions.
I don't know if it has to be specified in the policy because it's state law.
Well, what most of our policies do is recharacterize state law anyway. So why should we do it in some respects but not in the other? I think we just kind of send this one back for a bit of a rewrite on that point. Very simple, just adding a line, really.
Well, this was already updated with recommendations from our e-service policy. That's why it was even brought up. It was because there were some slight recommendations to it. And it's been noted throughout the whole process for the student board members that they are not to be in executive session.
And the policy committee did talk about
Yes.
having a policy for student board members, and we checked with legal, and it was said that we did not have to have one, and we chose not to because there was some conversation amongst the policy committee as to the wording in that policy, and it's not a required policy, it's like above an add-on, so we chose not to go with a policy for student board members.
You're still adopting a policy that says something that is not the case.
What's not the case?
What's not the case is that, I don't have it in front of me, but if you look at the language, and I quoted it in the emails that I sent to the board earlier today.
A vote to go to executive session shall be detailed enough to allow the public to understand the topic of the board will be discussing.
It's the first paragraph where it talks about.
First paragraph. A board member must make a motion during an open meeting to convene an executive session. Upon a majority vote.
I think the very, very first paragraph.
No.
Very first sentence.
Back up.
The Board of Education may hold executive session at which only the members of the board or persons invited to the board shall be present.
So we now have members of the board who can come to an executive session.
They're ex officio
Yeah.
members, though.
So what? That's not what it says.
What do you
Plain
mean?
reading of this language makes it wrong based upon what the law says.
I have a difference of opinion, but that's okay. We're allowed that.
Well, I'm going to vote against it. I want to be on record as saying I think this is not well written given the changes that have occurred.
Okay. So any other comments about it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
6-1. 13.14. I need a motion to approve 13.14.
So moved.
That's Georgia.
Second.
Bill. Comments or questions? Craig?
No, I'll skip it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
That was Kristen's second?
Yep.
Or Kenya?
Kenya.
All right. That was Georgia and Kristen. All those in favor? Comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0.